I have a currently reading confession to make. I may be reading way too many books right now. Hello book friends, I'm Jen and welcome to my reading life. And today I am here to share some currently reading confessions with you all. Yes, I think it's time that I came clean about how many books I am actually currently in the middle of. And it's probably more than you think. If you follow me over on Instagram, you know that last week I shared a big stack of books that are currently on my Goodreads currently reading list. And when I stacked them all up, I couldn't believe how many there were. Yikes. So today I am here to confess to all of you here on BookTube what I am currently reading, how many books that actually is, and is it realistic to be reading this many books? I don't know. We are about to find out. Grab a cup of tea and settle in, and we will find out what I'm currently reading. First off, I have to say that though these books are all on my currently reading list, I am not actively reading all of them at the same time. Some of these books are books I am reading over a long period of time. Some of them are books I just dip in and out of when I feel like it. And then some of them I am actually currently actively reading and working my way through and hoping to finish maybe sometime in the next short period of time. Let us just get into the books and then we will tally up how many books I am actually currently reading at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that. But I'm going to start off with the books I am actively reading, and I think I have them just about in the order of when I started them, from the book I've most recently started, and then we're going to go back in time to the books that I started quite a long time ago. But the first book that I'm reading is a book I just started yesterday, and that is Murder Must Advertise by Dorothy L. Sayers. If you have been watching my videos, you know that I am doing a read-through of all of the Lord Peter Wimsey novels this year. And Murder Must Advertise is the book that I am reading for August. I am just barely getting into this. I'm only on chapter 2, and I have read this book in the past, but I honestly, it's been so long, I really don't remember a thing about it. And it was funny because I started chapter 1 and I didn't really look at the synopsis on the back, and suddenly I was like, wait a minute, I think this person is Lord Peter and he is undercover or is impersonating an advertising copywriter. Lo and behold, look at the back of the book and it tells you that right off. I thought I was so clever that I'd figured that out on my own. But in this one, Lord Peter does go undercover in an advertising agency, and there is someone at the agency who has been killed prior to him arriving there, and this person fell down these really precipitous stairs in the office and was killed by hitting his head on this sort of, I think they have knobs at the ends of the banisters so that the young men in the office don't go sliding down the banisters. It's to prevent that from happening. And this person hit their head on that and has died. And I get the feeling that clearly somebody thinks that it might be foul play. And I am going to go along for the ride to find out what's going on. And though I've only made it through chapter 1, I am enjoying this so far and looking forward to number 8 in the Lord Peter Wimsey series. The next book that I am reading, I am actually reading on my Kindle, and that is The Chamomile Lawn by Mary Wesley. And I am reading this for the Quiet Classics book club that is on Instagram. It is run by Vicky at Antipodean Reader. Antipodean Reader or Antipodean Book Club? I can't remember. Apologies, Vicky. I will put her Instagram account here on the screen. And I wasn't going to participate in this because I didn't have a copy of the Chamomile Lawn. And then one of my friends in the group said, oh, it's available for free online. And I thought that was fantastic and I could read it that way. And then the other day I got an email from Amazon saying I had Kindle points that were expiring. And lo and behold, there was a copy of 3 of Mary Wesley's novels on Kindle available, and it pretty much, I think I paid like 23 cents for it after using my Kindle points. So I ended up doing that so that I could read it on my Kindle itself rather than having to read it like on my iPad. And I just started it, but I think I'm actually going to pause with it. So it's about these cousins. They are staying in Cornwall with their aunt and uncle. And this is something that they do every summer. And we are on the cusp of World War II when the novel opens. And it's just, I believe, a family story about the cousins and what happens to them over the course of, I believe, World War II and maybe even beyond that. But it's very similar to another book that I'm reading, and I don't want to get the two of them confused, so I'm going to finish the other book, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, and then I will return to the Chamomile Lawn when I finished that book. But because they're both about families and young people, but rather than getting it all mixed up in my mind, I do try not to read books that are too similar at the same time, because otherwise I get everything jumbled up in my brain and I have a hard enough time remembering what I read, as I have mentioned in the past. Chamomile Lawn, gonna set that aside for a few days while I finish the next book on my stack. And the next book on my stack is The Green Gage Summer by Rumer Godden. And I have been meaning to read this book for a number of years now. I purchased this back in 2022, though I had heard about it, I believe, before that, and I have wanted to read it. I've put it on multiple TBRs and have never gotten to it, but this year is the year. I put it on my TBR 24 in 24 challenge to be sure that I read it, and I'm so glad that I did. I am almost halfway through it so far, and in this we are following a family. They are on vacation in France from England, and their mother on the way there gets very ill, and the children are basically left to their own devices at this hotel, Les Ouellets, I think that's how you say it, Les Ouellets, something like that. And they are just kind of having to fend for themselves. There is a gentleman there who is English, and he says he will sort of act as their guardian while their mother is in the hospital. And the woman who owns the hotel and another woman who works for her are not really happy that the kids are there, but there is an older sister. She also gets sick when they first arrive at the hotel. She's sick for the first few days or week or so. And then where I am in the book, she has kind of just emerged from her illness. And the gentleman who has taken on the role as their guardian has just noticed that maybe she's not quite as young as she first appeared. And we're going to follow what happens. I am very intrigued where this story is going to take us. I'm a little trepidatious, but I feel like I'm in good hands with Rumer Godden. Looking very much forward to finishing this one, hopefully in the next few days. The next few books that I'm going to talk about are all classics, and I don't normally have this many classics going on at the same time, but that's just kind of what has happened at the moment. And the first one that I am working on reading is a short, almost novella length classic, and that is The Europeans by Henry James. I am reading this with my Gilded Age book group that I have with a couple of my lovely friends, Elizabeth and Susan, from over on Instagram. And we've been reading Edith Wharton, and now we're dipping into Henry James. And I have to say, I am really enjoying this. This is another family saga about cousins, actually. That's kind of funny. I didn't realize, I just now made the connection that I have books going that involve cousins. Interesting. It's funny how that kind of works out sometimes. And we have a set of American cousins. And then there are two cousins who have come over from Europe. Their mother is the sister of the father of the American cousins, and they grew up in Europe, but they have come to America. You're not quite sure at first why they are there, but you slowly learn that as the novel progresses. And I am really enjoying James's writing. This is my third Henry James book that I have read. I've read a couple of his other shorter works as well. I haven't read any of his longer novels. But this is a really good place, I think, if you want to start with Henry James, because it's not quite so daunting as I feel like Henry James can feel to readers. At least to me, he sometimes feels a little daunting. And I have found that I'm really enjoying his use of language and how he is evolving the story and kind of peeling away at what we know to get deeper under the surface. And this is definitely a classic that is going to be one I think I really enjoy. My next classic is, ooh, it looks quite chunky in this edition, and that is The Annotated Emma by Jane Austen. Because of the annotations, it is quite hefty, but Emma is not a particularly long novel by Jane Austen. But the way the annotations are done is that one page is text and then the corresponding page are the annotations. So really the novel is only on one half of the book. So you could cut this in half and that would be the actual length of Emma. If you've never read Emma, don't be daunted by the size of this. And I started buddy reading this with my friend Elizabeth for Jane Austen July, and we both have found that the annotations just slow down your reading quite considerably. And I really want to pay attention to the annotations and take them in and make note of them. So I haven't been just kind of racing through this one, and I've been enjoying that, but I also find that because it takes a lot of concentration when I'm reading it, like I really want to focus on it, that I don't pick it up just every single day. And I finally told Elizabeth this weekend, please, can you give me a deadline for where I should read to this week so that I can actually make some progress on this book? She did give me a place to get to, and actually I'm going to read about halfway through what I have left to finish, and then we're going to read the remainder of the book to try and finish this by the end of August, because I think we both have just been very slowly reading this, but we would both like to get it done before September begins. That is the goal for this one. Hopefully this will be coming off my currently reading by the end of the month. And then the final classic that I am reading right now is one I have mentioned before, and that is Middlemarch by George Eliot. I am doing a slow read of this over the course of this year. I actually started it in December of 2023. That is when the first section of the serialization of Middlemarch was released, when it was very first published, because it was published in serial format. And I'm reading each section in the corresponding month that it was released when it was originally serialized. I am currently in this section that was, I believe, published either July 27th or 29th, somewhere around there. And I started this at the beginning of August, and I am just working my way through it. I believe I don't need to read the next section until October. I've been listening to the audiobook mostly of this, which is read by Juliet Stevenson, and it's absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend it. And I've been doing that rather slowly because I don't want to finish it too soon, because I don't want to have too many months in between when I pick it up again. Though I have to say, I have really enjoyed slow reading this. I feel like I anticipate the next section and I'm looking forward to getting to it when it's time to start reading it again. And I don't forget what has happened in the last section as soon as I start to read the next section. It's been really an enjoyable way to read this, and I think I'm going to do another classic in a similar way next year. Haven't picked which one yet, and I don't know if I'll do it in the way it was serialized or just make my own schedule up for it, but I've really enjoyed the slow read of a big chunky classic over the course of this year. And I'll be done with this one in December, which will be a lovely way to round out my year. The final books are some that I am just dipping in and out of. I'm not reading them on any kind of schedule. I don't pick them up every day, maybe not even every week or every month. Just kind of depends on if I remember I'm still reading these. But there you have it. That is what is going on with these particular books. And I think they all sort of lend themselves to not need to being read in a very linear, consecutive way, that you can just dip in and out of these. And the first book that I'm reading is Personal Pleasures by Rose McCauley. And I have had this book on my shelf for so long, and I have read little snippets of it over the years, but I haven't read it cover to cover. And I was talking about it for one of my other videos, and I realized I was really kind of in the mood to dip into this one. I love books that have lists of things, like chapters that are lists. Not lists, but each chapter is its own topic and all combined in one book. The book itself is a list of things, and that is definitely what this book is. And it covers all kinds of topics from, let me see, album to book auctions, to elephants in Bloomsbury, to hatching eggs, to reading, to taking umbrage, to walking, just all kinds of pleasures in life. But the thing about this is that Rose McCauley doesn't just show you what's pleasurable about that thing. She might show you also what's not as pleasurable about that thing, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I did not realize, like I said, I've had this book for so long. I actually purchased this, I believe, from the Common Reader book catalog. Does anybody out there remember the Common Reader book catalog? I used to get it in the mail. My mom and I both did. And it was the loveliest catalog. And it was, they had their own publishing house. Publishing house, is that what it's called? I don't even know. They published books, and this is one of the Common Reader editions of books that they published. I have a few different ones. Maybe I'll share those at some point. But if you remember the Common Reader book catalog, I would love to hear that. It was a lovely book catalog. Suffice it to say, I've gone on too long now. But Personal Pleasures, written by Rose McCauley, who I didn't realize was the same Rose McCauley that wrote Dangerous Ages, which I have sitting on my shelf. And also, I had asked for some book recommendations on my Bookstagram account last week, and somebody recommended, I believe it's The Towers of Trebizond. I believe that's the title, by Rose McCauley, and I am going to pick that one up as well. So I have a few Rose McCauleys to be working on, but this one isn't a novel. It is a nonfiction work where she just has written these essays about personal pleasures, and I'm not very far into it yet. I'm on astronomy, and they're alphabetical. I definitely have a ways to go still, but again, it's just one of those books you can dip in and out of. Then I have another book that I'm reading as a sort of year-long project, and that is Jacob's Room is Full of Books by Susan Hill. And this book is divided into chapters, one for each month of the year. And Susan Hill talks about books and bookish things and all kinds of stuff. And I read Howard's End is on the Landing last year and absolutely loved it. And so I decided to pick this one up as well. But I didn't realize at first that that's how the chapters were divided. I thought it might be fun to read through the chapter that corresponds with each month of the year. And that is what I am doing. I am enjoying this one. I definitely think it will be second to Howard's End is on the Landing. I highly recommend that book. It's also a beautiful book. What's not to love? Then the next book is a book of poetry, and that is Devotions by Mary Oliver. And this collection, Mary Oliver actually put together not long before her death, actually. This is a collection of some of her favorite poems from all of her different collections that she had published throughout the years. So you get a sampling of all of her books of poetry. And I am quite far into this now. I only have this much left to go. And again, I just dip in and out of this. I try to read a few poems. I was doing every day this summer, or most every day this summer. Now that the school year is starting up again, my morning routine has changed, and I'm finding it's a little more challenging to sit down and read through have my quiet moment with devotions. But I'm hoping to work out a new schedule where I can just find a few quiet moments in the day to sit with this. Her poetry is so amazing. She's definitely one of my very favorite poets. I don't read a lot of poetry, but I am a huge, huge fan of Mary Oliver now after having read 2/3 of this book so far. And I have one of her essay collections as well, and I think I'm going to pick that up this fall. Upstream, I believe it's called. And I'm looking forward to reading that as well. But if you have recommendations for poets who might be similar to Mary Oliver or just other poets that I might enjoy, I would love any poetry recommendations you might have, because I'm really enjoying slow reading my way through this. And then the last book I have to share is Distilled Genius by Susan Branch. This is a collection of life-changing quotations, and that is literally what it is. Susan Branch has collected some of her favorite quotes, and she's divided them into different sections. Like here we have quiet, and of course she has her beautiful artwork, and she handwrites all her books, so this is her actual handwriting, which it just makes them so lovely to read through. And I have been reading this since I saw Susan Branch live in person, met her, had her sign my book. Can you see that? I'm like, is that showing? Yes. And that was in 2022. Talk about slow reading. It's just one of those books that you just dip in, read some of the quotes, and then dip out of again. And I have perused it. I have looked through the different sections, read a few quotes here and there. I also, when I was putting together the eulogy for my dad's service last fall, I pulled some quotes from here that I used in his eulogy, so it feels very special to me in that way. But I decided that I was going to finally just finish reading my way through all the quotations. I've absolutely loved reading through these quotes. Some of them really, really speak to me, and if you can, definitely get yourself a copy of this book if you like quotes as well, because it is so, so very lovely. And I'm almost done with it. I just have a little bit more to go. This has been a very enjoyable read, but it is time to finish this. 2 years is long enough. Okay, that is all the books that I'm currently reading. Kind of a lot. So let's count them up, shall we? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, this is my Kindle, and 10. 10 books I'm currently reading. Oh my gosh, you guys. It's crazy. I don't know, is that too many? Do you think I'm reading too many books? I would love to hear from you in the comments if you think I am reading too many books. I think as long as I don't read books that are too similar, it is okay for me to be reading multiple books at one time and keep them fairly straight in my mind. Maybe not perfectly straight, but fairly straight. And like I said, a number of these are books I'm just kind of dipping in and out of. I'm not like every day picking them up and reading them. The first books that I talk about are definitely the ones that I actively read every single day. And so it just kind of works. Though I really, 10 feels like a lot. I've been thinking about how I want to structure my reading for the upcoming year, and I feel like maybe 4 or 5 books is enough to have going at any one time. I'm gonna try to work on that. Narrow it down from 10 ongoing books to 5. And maybe that number goes up and down a little bit as I start and finish things, but try to keep that number a little bit lower. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. How many books do you have on the go at one time? And to be honest, I used to be a one book at a time reader. I would just book to book to book to book. I didn't read multiple things at one time. I really only started doing that in the past few years, but I have found that it actually works for me. Again, like I said, if I keep things different. So if I have a modern novel, a mystery, a classic, a nonfiction book, it's easy for me to keep those things separate in my mind. If I start to read, say, the Chamomile Lawn and the Green Gage Summer and they feel too similar, then I set one aside until I finish the other one, which is what I'm doing right now. But that is it. That is the confession of my currently reading pile. I'd love to know if you have any confessions to make about your currently reading pile as well. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you could give it a like and hit that subscribe button, that would be fantastic. And again, please be sure to share all your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll be back with another video very soon. Bye.